the big headline of the week is Baker Mayfield being traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers for a conditional fifth round pick that could convert into the fourth round pick. And on top of that, the Browns are paying roughly $10 million of his salary. The Panthers on hook for just under $5 million of that salary, and then the remaining $3 million plus is just dissolved because Baker was willing to take a pay cut to make this happen. And that is the epitome of the Cleveland Browns franchise and organization. And one of the things I want to look at is this actually an upgrade for the Carolina Panthers? Now, the Carolina Panthers are a team. They got that young, hot coach coming in. He coached Temple. He coached Baylor. He's a culture creator. He gets the best out of his teams. He creates a winning environment. And that has not been the case for the Carolina Panthers as of yet. Now, there's been a revolving door at the quarterback position. We can sit here and go through the revolving door of the Carolina Panthers. And basically, for me, what I would look at is, I understand there's been a revolving door. 2019, you had a couple of quarterbacks start games. You had Will Grier, who went 0-2 in 2019. Cam Newton started 2 games. And then you had Kyle Allen that started 12 games. He was 5-7 on the year. Allen was traded to the Washington Commanders. Newton was released. And then Will Grier released as well. And then in 2020, Teddy Bridgewater started 15 games, went 4-11. PJ Walker started a game. And that was really your 2020 season. Last year, Sam Darnold, due to injury, only started 11 games. PJ Walker started a game. Cam Newton got in there for 5 games. Overall, since 2019, the record is 15-34. And now everybody expects Baker Mayfield to walk in and get the starting job. But I'm going to sit here and ask you a real question. And I'm going to tell you, put the context in it. Do not look at the stats. Do not tell me what Baker Mayfield's stats are. Do not tell me what Sam Darnold's stats are. Watch these two kids play and watch the pieces that have been around them and tell me, is this an actual upgrade? Now, this is one of the only franchises, I think there's only been 2 franchises to ever have 2 top 5 picks that are quarterbacks on their team that were drafted the same year. But let me take a look at this. Baker, obviously, clearly, if you do look at the stats, has the better stats, has the better touchdown to interception ratio, has the better winning percentage, has all this handed to him. And as much as we pick on the Cleveland Browns organization, as much as a failure as the Cleveland Browns have been since they re-entered the league after their previous team moved to Baltimore and became the Baltimore Ravens, as much as a disaster that they have been since they've been back in the league, this team, and you can't be afraid to admit it, have built a talented team over the course of Baker's career. You know, you've had Jarvis Landry in there, David Njoku, they brought in Austin Hooper, they brought in Odell Beckham Jr., they got 2 talented running backs and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt that could be number 1 running backs on any team in the league, basically. They got a strong offensive line. They got a solid defense. Myles Garrett was there, or is there. They got a top corner. They got a lot of things in place working for that Cleveland Browns franchise. So when I tell you Baker Mayfield's stats are better, well, of course they're going to be better. He's had the better offensive line, the better offensive weapons, the better run game, the better head coach. And if you take a look at the last 5 years, 4 years, if you want to take a look at these 2 guys in general, the Cleveland Browns have been the better organization compared to the New York Jets. And that's sad to admit it. And I know, obviously, Sam Darnold played for the Carolina Panthers last year, but overall, You take a look at the Jets and where they started 4 years ago, bringing in Sam Darnold. The last year of Todd Bowles, who is a defensive-minded coach, whose philosophy is just don't turn the ball over and we'll win some games, to going to Adam Gase, who could potentially be one of the worst head coaches in NFL history. And that's really how Sam Darnold's career has started and fizzled thus far. Then he goes to Carolina Panthers. You know, his first 3 games, they win. He's averaging some good numbers, shaking off, seeing ghosts. You take a look at his first 3 games. Remind you, those first 3 games came with a healthy Christian McCaffrey. 3 games, 3 wins, 68% completion percentage, 296 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 98.9 QB rating the first 3 games. Sam Darnold loses his number 1 weapon in Christian McCaffrey, got a terrible offensive line in front of him. We know the rest. The team ended up going very abysmal on their way to a 5-12 record. That's the epitome of this team. You got Matt Rule in there. You never really had the pieces in front of him. You can't get a healthy Christian McCaffrey. But is Baker Mayfield an actual upgrade? Baker's had the better talent, had the better franchise over the last 4 years, had the better offensive line, the better offensive weapons, the better tight end, the better running backs, a healthier team. Let me remind you, Baker Mayfield's best season came in 2020, where he led the Browns to the playoffs for the first time in who knows how long, to be honest with you. They went 11-5. They made the playoffs. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round. Let me go over some numbers for you. That year, the Cleveland Browns ranked 28th in pass attempts and 24th in passing yards. On the flip side, they ranked 4th in rushing attempts and 3rd in rushing yards. Baker Mayfield has talent. He is talented. But I'm going to tell you right now, Baker is far from an upgrade over Sam Darnold. And I'm not quite sure that once these July training camps happen, that Baker's going to walk away with this job. And that's just the reality of it. Because in my eyes, and you could take a look around the league, you could take a look around at the Jets organization, the Cleveland Browns organization, and now with the Carolina Panthers, Sam Darnold has never gotten a fair shake. And he may never will get a fair shake. This is the last hurrah for Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. And that's not saying much because now I'm placing Matt Rule on the hot seat. He's got to win me games. And it can't just be 6, 7, 8 wins. I got to make the playoffs. I got to get close to making the playoffs if you want me to continue to have you lead my helm. Because whether you like it or not, the Panthers have invested a lot in the quarterback room. Whether you think they have a good quarterback room, an average quarterback room, or a below average quarterback room, they invested a 2nd round, a 3rd round, a 4th round, a 5th round, and a 6th round pick to invest in a quarterback room of Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Matt Corral from Ole Miss. Does that scream winning games? It doesn't. It doesn't. I do think out of all those 3 quarterbacks, and I am a big Sam Darnold fan, I'm going to say Sam Darnold. I think the athleticism of Sam Darnold helps with an offensive line that, yeah, they they drafted an offensive lineman with their first pick this year, but that offensive line is still a travesty. Pro Football Focus has it ranked 24th out of 32 going into 2022. And I think that number might be closer to 32 than what Pro Football Focus has given them credit for. And Baker Mayfield, while he was able to do some things in college, moving around in the pocket, evading pass rushers, this is a different ballgame. The NFL is different. Everybody runs 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 speed in the NFL. Sam Darnold's the more athletic guy, can throw on the run better. I think accuracy, they both go hand in hand roughly. Now Baker has been more tendent to throw things around the line of scrimmage and, 5-7 yards from the line of scrimmage. So I think his accuracy has been noted a little better. Although the game plans have really been around his strengths and avoided his weaknesses. He's not a deep ball thrower. The only thing that this trade really did was put pressure on Matt Rule. And I'm interested to see who's the week 1 starter and how long do they start for. Maybe it's Baker Mayfield and they have to go to Sam Darnold. Maybe it's Sam Darnold and they have to go to Baker Mayfield. How long will QB1 last? Or does Matt Rule go with his 3-man rotation like it seemed like he did last year with PJ Walker and Cam Newton and Sam Darnold, where he would have a pitch count? All right, you go play 15 snaps, this guy 10 snaps, this guy 5 snaps, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, I don't know if this trade makes this team better, but the key either way, whether it's Sam Darnold starting, whether it's Matt Corral starting, whether it's Baker Mayfield starting, the key to this team, because they have some nice pieces on defense. They dedicated a whole draft to the defensive side of the ball. They drafted an offensive lineman. One offensive lineman isn't going to solve all the issues, but it definitely helps. You have some nice offensive weapons. You got Robbie Anderson there. You got DJ Moore there. You have Chuba Hubbard. You have Christian McCaffrey. But it's really going to rely on the health of Christian McCaffrey. Because when the pressure's on, you need to be able to have that guy, Christian McCaffrey, that can take a 2-yard pass to the house or, at least 10, 15 yards down the field. It's all about yaks, yards after catches. And Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs when it comes to yards after the catches. And with an offensive line that really wasn't addressed in the offseason at all, this is going to come down to what player can get the ball out of his hands faster, what player can make quick decisions, and can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy? And if all those things are true, I truly believe that Sam Darnold would be the best option. But to only give up a 5th-round pick and only pay less than $5 million for a salary, that's a risk I'm willing to take. And the Browns did a terrible job from the start with this, and the Cleveland Browns screwed themselves out of getting a higher draft pick potentially for Baker Mayfield. Now, on the flip side, Carolina Panthers did a great job being patient, not showing their hand. They brought in Matt Corral. They explained how happy they were with Sam Darnold. They did everything right until the price came back to them and where they wanted to meet numbers-wise. And that's one of the things why the Carolina Panthers went after a Baker Mayfield instead of a Jimmy Garoppolo. Easier to get Baker Mayfield. Baker wanted out. The Browns wanted to rid him. The Browns sold off for a 5th-round pick, a conditional 5th round, and paid $10 million in salary. Do you think that the 49ers are in any rush to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? They have the cap space. they've built a nice young team that's in a win now mode, they don't necessarily have to sell off Jimmy Garoppolo. They're in the waiting game. They want to recoup some of that magic lost when they had to trade so many draft picks to move up to get Trey Lance. That's why the Carolina Panthers went the route of getting Baker Mayfield. Now, if we were talking Jimmy G in Carolina, and we're talking who's getting the starting job, absolutely Jimmy G. Not because he's going to get 20 plus million this year, because I truly believe Jimmy G would be an upgrade over Sam Darnold. But you pair number 1 and number 3, Sam Darnold versus Baker Mayfield, it's not so much of an upgrade. I don't think it's an upgrade. It's a lateral move. Now, who's going to win out of the lateral move? Is it going to be Sam Darnold? Is it going to be Baker Mayfield? And how long is that going to last? Because if it doesn't last very long, if we have to bounce back and forth, might cause Matt Rule to lose his job by the end of the year.